And you're very welcome back to episode number 11 of our Final Whistle Ladies Gaelic Football Podcast. It's the All Ireland final debrief. We had the preview last week, and the dust is still settling, and there's plenty of parties going on in the winning counties after a frantic All Ireland final triple header on Sunday. Delighted once again to be joined by Joanne Doonan from Fermanagh and Clare Owens from Leitrim. Both ladies, this time 12 months ago, were in the middle of celebrating All Ireland wins. Now they're here to dissect all of the action, of course, that we seen in Croke Park on Sunday in the junior, intermediate, and senior All Ireland final. We'll start our debrief of events at the weekend with the junior final. Last week, we were previewing Antrim against Louth. All three of us had predicted that Antrim would continue the unbeaten run and record a perfect season, taking home the All-Ireland Junior title. But Louth decided to turn the script that we had written and change the narrative, and picked up the All-Ireland Junior title for the first time since 2019 with a redemption story from 12 months ago, winning 13 points to 1-8 in the end. Of course, Louth there last year in the same dressing room that they were in 12 months ago, that they went into after absolutely dejected. They managed to turn that into elation this year in similar fashion to last year. They start on the back foot, and it's another early goal, and it's a penalty. Brona Devlin slots it away into the top of the net. Teresa Mellon gets fouled inside in the area, and Antrim have a very, very good start. They go 4 points up. I know, Joanne, you were there last year, and Emer got the goal early on. And did that give you the confidence to kick on? And you took a 3-point lead to the break. Louth kind of changed things around. They maybe started a bit sluggish, but once they got going, they kind of kicked it into gear by halftime.
Yeah, look, I think certainly whenever you get a goal like that, it can settle you, but it's also kind of one of them things where when you get it early, it's hard that some girls might switch off and be like, okay, we're fine here, when really you need to kind of keep chipping away, because it's a long 60 minutes, and when sometimes when you're holding the lead, it can be a harder position. But I think Louth kind of showed their experience from being in that position last year, that they didn't show signs of panic at all, kept chipping away at the points, and they did narrow that margin. And then they just had a phenomenal second half of pushing on with that. But again, I do think it was that they looked that wee bit more composed and a wee bit more. I suppose it is that they've been in this scenario before and not the panic, really.
Because the first quarter seemed to kind of belong to Antrim. They started brightly, but Louth were plucking away. They were getting their scores. But then, I suppose, in that second quarter, they just started to come into life. Like Shannon McLaughlin, Áine Breen get a couple of scores. And then Kate Flood does what Kate Flood does best and gets a couple of points. And suddenly you're 1 point up. And they're going back into the dressing room that they went into last year, knowing, okay, we're 3 points down. We need to kick ourselves into gear now for the second half. But they're 1 point up this time around. And I think they might have had a little bit more confidence. And as you said there, like they just showed it in abundance in that second half.
Yeah, I definitely think they just looked like, even their demeanor and everything, they just looked a lot more comfortable and confident this year. Like, and while I know we mentioned before about Antrim always kind of seem to have that kind of confidence around them, I think whether it was a wee bit of complacency, maybe not being in that experience of, having closer games this year, or even being in a losing position this year for Antrim, that they just seemed to, I suppose, they probably kind of thought that that first 15 minutes might have won them the game. Whereas, like, with, going for goals very early, they probably had loads of time to keep chipping away at points, and Antrim were kind of forcing those goals and just playing it to Louth's hands. Like, Louth were going quite defensive, and you could just see that, it was nearly like Louth was like, this is exactly what we planned for, and they were getting energy from that, and they were just breaking out numbers in speed, and they just looked very impressive, I have to say. Like, fair play to Louth. Like, they really, I suppose, right the wrongs from last year.
And we did mention that, just the way that Louth can play, and they can turn that defense into attack, because Antrim came out and they did get a score. They managed to tie things up. And from watching it, it was very, very tight. But when Louth got going at the other end, they looked very, very strong, kicking into the Hill 16 end. And when Antrim were trying to get their chances, like, look, we've spoken about Marie O'Neill, we've spoken about Lara de Hunze. They were trying to get the ball in, but Louth were just there in numbers. They were just, every time the ball went over, there was a red jersey there to just get a hand on it, force a turnover, try and get things, flowing in their way. From the defenders' mindset, Claire, like, just how good do you think that is for maybe even the forwards, just the team in general, where, a team is going at it, they're trying to get those scores, but your defense is just so ironclad that every time they do something, you're just forcing and you're winning those turnovers in those vital minutes of a game.
Oh yeah, I think anyone that probably plays a sport, but certainly Gaelic football, how much energy you get from those turnovers, and equally from the team that are attacking and getting turned over. It's such an energy sapper, like mentally, physically, it's so draining. So for Antrim to have had the possession, would have those turnovers constantly coming back at them, like, it's very, very difficult to deal with that, because then everyone, I find myself, everyone starts to retreat. Then you're kind of going, we can't commit to that attack, because what about when it breaks down? And that's what Louth are really good at, is it's not if it breaks down, you're going when it breaks down, because they are so good at getting those turnovers. So yeah, it's definitely psychologically they have the upper hand against most teams, probably, in that you start to think when they turn us over, not if.
Because Louth were doing really well, but look, Antrim, we spoke about their scoring threat, and they get a couple of scores. Maybe we're going for goal a little bit earlier than probably they should have. I think they had a little bit more time on the clock, that they could have kicked a couple of points and tried to shrink the deficit, but it all came down to one last roll of the dice. We talk about the 22 final that went to a replay. We're thinking, okay, look, this is going to go to a replay, and Louth were throwing everything they could, and they're going for goal, and Áine Breen does what any player would do with a couple of seconds left on the clock, knowing that the hooter is going to sound, and commits a foul, takes the yellow card. Then all of a sudden you have Marie O'Neill with the ball in hand, knowing if she can put this into the back of the net, we're going to force a replay. And it's the girl who was going for the golden boot against the girl who had the golden glove in the end, Rebecca Lamfagan. What a moment for her to get that free and just tip it over the bar, and knowing that the Louth fans around Croke Park were just counting down those seconds. She takes her kick out, the hooter sounds, and Louth are crowned All Ireland champions. Just what a moment for, I suppose, any goalkeeper to pull off a save, but for someone so young who's was there last year and knows the pain of defeat, like, that was just a great moment for her. But I suppose a testament as well to Louth's defence, just to limit Antrim when they looked like they might have had a little bit of momentum in those closing exchanges.
Yeah, I definitely think that they just were very well schooled, weren't they, with Antrim, and they knew even when Laura de Hunze went in, they nearly had 2 Louth players on her each time. And like you said, like, the keeper just stepping up in those moments, like, that's exactly what you want and you expect of your keeper in those areas, to keep it calm, keep it composed. And I think just breaking out from that, I have to mention even Nolan, her speed in the forward line was unbelievable, and you could just see the tired legs of Antrim not being able to keep up with her, and just her ability to run at their defence the whole time was amazing. But it is one of those things, like it like even you describing the final few seconds, it is surreal, and it's such an amazing feeling for any footballer to experience. And it's just like you genuinely do be happy to see the likes of Louth winning that after trying so hard last year to get there. Like, so it is it's a surreal feeling. So I'm sure there's plenty of partying today now.
Definitely, going off some of the social media posts that were up about the Louth team, they've been enjoying the celebrations. But you were there last year, Joanne, and you were obviously celebrating while Louth were on the field watching you lift that cup and went into the dressing room knowing, we're after putting in so much work this year and now we have to go again for 2025 this year, obviously. But from that perspective, just how do you think they just felt having turned ultimate pain and agony from 12 months before into just the ultimate elation of getting over the line this year?
Oh God, yeah, you have to be able to use that as motivation and use that as a driver. Like it's just in the back of your head the whole time, that hurt. And sometimes I even try it, even in coaching, like try to like what makes you motivated, what gets you motivated. And I think like, in them slogging pre-seasons or, when you have to do the extras that nobody else sees, like you're constantly thinking of that feeling that you don't want to have that feeling again. So like at least if you can, hold your head high and say, look, I tried my best this year, and even if you lost, at least then you can relax knowing that you've done everything. Whereas like I do think that they definitely looked like they were, like I mentioned before, just well drilled that wasn't going to happen this year. Like, and they seem to have the homework done and they use that experience to see it over the line too. And I have to laugh even in them scenarios too. Like it's funny, after you win the cup and all, you get changed and all, you end up being in the same room to get a wee bit of food after the game. Like, so like it was just like Fermanagh and Louth last year. Like, and I'd say they were like, God, I don't want to look at the side of them. Like, but I always find that so funny that I don't think people would even know that you end up being in the same room, like eating bloody finger food after the game with the other team. Like, but no, in fairness to them, like they were a very good team last year, and like I said, they're still an excellent team this year. Like, so it's be good to see how well they do in intermediate, and as well able to be up in intermediate next year as well. So be good to see.
Absolutely. And we spoke there about just what it felt. Well, no better people to talk to after a game than those who managed to get over the line and win an All-Ireland final. So afterwards, I managed to get the thoughts of the team captain, Áine Breen, and their superstar forward in Kate Flood.
Áine, 12 months ago, you were looking at a different captain lifting the All-Ireland Junior title. 12 months later, it's yourself. Tell me the emotion after the last few minutes.
Yeah, I know. I think for the last probably 5-10 minutes, I know you shouldn't be, but it was nearly looking at the clock constantly, just ticking away. It was probably the longest 10 minutes of my life. I think we were up by 6. In the end, only won by 3. They were crawling back, and in the last 20 seconds, they were well capable of coming to get a goal. But luckily, even when I was coming off, I wasn't even able to look at the last 3. So look, I think it's just the joy and happiness that I'm feeling at the minute is, completely different to the disappointment of last year, and it just shows you like the winning and losing and the emotion involved in it.
Because I know the last couple of seconds you spent it on the sideline after picking up the yellow card. It was last ditch defending there at the end. It was just try and do everything to try and get over that line, and then that save that Rebecca made, like that's the winning and losing of a game, even though it would have sent it to a potential replay after, if with the way the time had gone. But I don't know what way you could sum up those last few seconds from where you had seen it.
Yeah, I like, she had the pace on me definitely, and I just thought, take her down. That was my only thought in my mind. I was like, if they get a point, there's only 20 seconds left, we can get a kick away in the last 20 seconds. But that was my only thought, and like even at that, even if she did get away, you had Rebecca there to back you up. And even though there was the penalty in the first minute of the game, that never gets to Rebecca, and she's a phenomenal goalie, and she's a brilliant person to have there. And I think just the defending, like Emer, Eilish, Rachel and the full back line, like were absolutely exceptional. And look, having those girls backing you up, constantly supporting you, you just couldn't be prouder of the team from start to finish.
Just on terms of that goal, I know 12 months ago Fermanagh got a goal in the first half fairly early on as well, not quite as early as the one that we saw today, but they went in at the break leading last year. This year you went in, got those couple of late points, putting you in just narrowly ahead. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you were in the same dressing room as 12 months ago. So what was the feeling like at halftime this year in comparison to last year?
There was definitely a different feeling going in at halftime. It was, even though it was like, it was frantic in the first half, you know, we were probably getting turned over a lot, we were running into tackles, like things we weren't doing in previous games. But even when we came in at half time, there was sort of a reset, a refocus, and that belief that we were going to get over the line. And it was the same dressing room, but you know, we had I suppose a psychologist come in, Kelly Fay, and we spoke about those things, and we learned, and I think saying in my last interview, you know, we learned from last year and what we were going to do differently, and not letting those small things affect us, and we didn't today. And I think that's just, you know, we had come up against similar in the Limerick game in terms of being 4 points down with 5 minutes to go and ended up winning. So look, we've had faced that before, and I think that's what helped us today.
You've done so many interviews with me over the last 12 months, probably sick of me at this stage. Probably the sweetest of them all to do it now after winning the All-Ireland. It's your third All-Ireland title, and you're back up to intermediate. Would this be the sweetest of the ones now that you've won, being the captain and all?
Yeah. I think there's always a difference when, you know, you're captain and you're leading the team out. Look, I've always enjoyed playing with Louth, regardless of any final that we play in. You know, it's enjoyable. Today is, I suppose, just that kind of reassurance of what we had talked about over the last year, knowing that we were capable of getting over the line. You know, I'd say Antrim were probably favourites going into this game, from, you know, what we had heard on different interviews and talks and stuff like. But again, we didn't let probably yours in particular. But you know, we didn't let that affect us, and in saying that, look, it was enjoyable. But again, we talk about the psychological aspect of it too.
Kate, I don't know how you can sum up your emotions after that. Louth All-Ireland champions once again.
Yeah, it's very, very mixed emotions for myself. But obviously, I've just kind of told a few people that this is my last year within a county jersey, so yeah, I'm trying to not get too emotional, but yeah, I'm absolutely delighted to be able to, I suppose, go out on such a high and get the win and have the trophy back down the road to Louth.
You've been here before, you've won it, you've gone up the steps and you've lifted the cup. You've soldiered for years with Louth. I suppose everyone wants to go out on a high, and definitely today, your performance and just Louth themselves back up now to intermediate for next year.
Yeah, no, look, I think with the squad that's there, if they stick together and kind of rally around, and there's talent coming through, that there's no doubt that they can compete within intermediate. And yeah, obviously I've been here many times before, but yeah, today's obviously very special, very emotional day, but very special day.
I know I spoke to Áine there and I asked her just the feeling in the dressing room. It's the same dressing room you were in 12 months ago. 12 months ago you were on the field watching Fermanagh taking home that cup, and now it's the scenes of joy. Like when that hooter sounded, everyone was on the field celebrating after those minutes. It's what I suppose you've been dreaming and trying to achieve since the pre-season way back around Christmas time of last year.
Yeah, at the start of the year we kind of had a players meeting, and we said that we'll stick together and we'll right the wrongs from last year and give it another go at it. And yeah, I think we proved a lot of people wrong. I think going in the start of the year there was ones that were doubting us that we didn't do it last year, so we couldn't do it again this year. But yeah, I think like that we proved an awful lot of people wrong, and yeah, we're obviously just delighted that we could get over the line and bring the cup home.
As Áine said there, I think we got it wrong on the podcast. All three of us predicted Antrim to win it, so yeah, we'll be quiet after that. But just talk me through the ending of that first half. Those scores, right as the hooter sounded, you're going in at a point up. You were 3 points down 12 months ago, and Áine had said it. There was definitely a better mood in the camp at half time, but that second half performance from the forwards all the way to defenders, it just was a real team performance to get you over that line.
Yeah, look, we've practiced different scenarios if we go down or go in at half time, maybe 2 or 3 points down, and how we kind of rectify that coming back out. But yeah, lucky enough we were to get the point to go in at half time, a point up, and yeah, we just went into the dressing room. We took a moment to ourselves to kind of calm the engines a bit, and then we just went out and stuck to the game plan for the second half. And yeah, just lucky enough that when we kind of did hit the ground running in the second half, that we kind of pushed on and got a good couple of points in the score. And then we just kind of kept pushing on, and the whole team worked absolutely their socks off, and even the girls that came on were a massive help to get us over the line.
Talk me through those final few moments when Antrim had that free and it could have gone into the back of the net, and then all of a sudden it goes over and the hooker is just about to sound and you're All Ireland champions.
Yeah, it was obviously a bit nervy when that last free kick, but I knew the girls that was behind me and that was on the goal line that they definitely weren't going to let it go in. And yeah, when it went over then, and I suppose you kind of hear the crowd counting down, and once that happens, you know, there's not much time left, and it was just a matter of Rebecca kicking the ball out and the hooter going, and then after that I don't know what happened.
There'll be plenty of celebrations in Louth after this one, of course. Yourself as well, married not that long ago, so I suppose the honeymoon will intertwine with a team holiday away, and there'll be plenty of celebrations now over the next few months, no doubt.
Yeah, look, I know it's like a long year, so I think when you get days like this, you have to really celebrate them and kind of soak it all up, and just hopefully there's a team holiday.
That's what team captain Áine Breen and Kate Flood had to say. Of course, Áine mentioning our prediction on last week's podcast, and we got it very, very wrong. And we do apologise, and plenty of humble pie to be eaten after writing off Louth, even though we did say it was going to be a close game. And definitely, I don't think any of us would have been too surprised had Louth managed to have gotten over that line. Just a bit on Kate Flood, because there's certainly a lot of emotions to follow winning an All-Ireland final. But for her perspective, more so mixed with the fact that she had just announced her retirement a couple of minutes before I managed to speak with her after the game. So I suppose you're on the ultimate high of you're after winning an All-Ireland final, and then you're balancing it with that's my last time in the county jersey. I suppose no better feeling to go out on a high in that respect, Joanne. But like, how much of a loss is Kate Flood going to be? Because she has just been an inspirational leader and just a Trojan workhorse for Louth over those last few years.
Yeah, God, she's a massive loss to any team. Like, you know, it will be very hard to replace, like, even athletically, like her height, her agility for her height, her power, everything. And also, like, obviously her scoring threat, like, you know, so she's going to be a very, very hard player to replace, like, and even that leadership, that experience, you know. I suppose it's the reality of sport, isn't it? And look, sometimes I think it's one of them things where, you know, when maybe it's me coming close to that age too, that you kind of be thinking, God, it's sad to think about that it probably goes so quick, but also not everybody gets such a fairy tale ending. You know, some might have to leave early with injury or whatever it may be, and it doesn't work out just as you planned. So for her to finish on such a high, I'd say it was just phenomenal. Like, you know, I'm sure if they had to lose to Antrim, it would have left her in such a tricky situation. Do you give it one more year? You know, it's always that kind of toy in with that. So no, she's gave a lot to Gaelic football over the last few years. I think she definitely deserves a break now. So no, fair play to her.
And I know Clare's having her own battles with internet there, but in terms of a defender, when you see someone, Clare, like Kate Flood, I think defenders across Ireland will breathe a sigh of relief that they won't have to come up against her, because on her day, she is probably one of the best forwards we have seen play ladies football in this country.
Oh yeah, absolute class act, and look, best wishes to Kate. But I just couldn't get over her composure yesterday. You know, I think you've mentioned it there, but the whole emotions of winning yesterday, and then suddenly she's been hit with, oh, I hear you're retiring. Like, it's such a strange feeling, I'd imagine. But I just thought she was very composed, and obviously she's kind of made peace with that decision. And look, you know, I think I heard someone asked Dean Rock how retirement is there on a show recently. He said, yeah, it's fine. You know, he wasn't going, oh, it's the best thing I've ever done. Like, I think we'd all probably play forever if we could. Now, maybe I'm wrong on that, but yeah, I definitely feel like she spoke with a kind of a feeling of, you know, contentment, obviously, after winning, but also just with her decision probably to leave it at that. And no more than Hannah Tyrrell, and I think Nicole Owens mentioned it as well. Like, what a way to go out. I mean, you couldn't really ask for more of a fairy tale ending.
No, obviously it wasn't the only retirement from the All-Ireland finals yesterday, but I suppose when you're, you know, you've won multiple All-Ireland titles for your county, I don't think anyone would begrudge a player to to take a step aside and look, maybe in a year or two she decides, you know what, maybe I'd like to put on the boots one more time and give it another crack for Louth. You just don't know. Look, I suppose it is a big commitment, and I can only imagine, talking to yourselves who are inter-county players, it's a lot of putting life on hold. We've seen her get married during I suppose they normally say GA players not to get married during the championship season, but you're putting a lot on hold. And then, as I said to her, you'll have the honeymoon now to look forward to, and a team holiday. She is looking forward to a team holiday, so hopefully Louth do organise one after winning the All Ireland. But look, she's
but
even
the kind of year-long nature of it nowadays, like they're definitely, I remember when I started playing, there was an off season. Like I remember kind of having, I don't know, was it maybe kind of 2 months where you're kind of going, I don't have any plans. Whereas it does feel like, even though there is obviously the kind of collective training ban and all that, there's, between club and county, you do feel like you're going around the clock a little bit, and friends and family are going, I thought, is it not over? And, well, over and starting again. So it's a huge commitment, yeah. And look, who knows? We saw Michael Murphy do it, so we could see Kate Flynn back in a Louth jersey, but we'll let her have her little suss or her little break for now.
Absolutely, she's well earned it. Absolutely well earned it. But like, as you're saying it there, like, you'll have pre-season, then you have the league, then you'll have your provincial championship, then you'll have the All Ireland championship. And if you're a team that goes, the distance that Louth have, now you're looking into your club championship, depending on how long your club championship will go as well. You could be playing football from January to October with very little breaks, depending on, the scheduling and so on and so forth. So it really is, a massive commitment and a massive undertaking for a lot of players to put a lot of things on hold and go, well, look, there is a Sunday here in the middle of August that I might have a break. We'll see. We don't know yet.
Yeah,
I know. Sure. I'm laughing. I don't know, Claire, you're probably the same, but you'd be added to more hen groups and stuff like that. Like, and a lot of them mightn't play football and be like, there's a hen in October, and I'm like, how do people know what they're doing in October? I'd be like, how can people plan that far ahead? Like, it's so funny how you're not used to it. Like,
oh yeah, or even like you'll see, get the schedule. Now I know it's maybe different at level, but at club level, like you'll get the schedule, you'll kind of make vague plans that this is blocked off as you need to be available, and then something will happen where there's a replay or there's a draw or there's something, and you're like, I thought I'd planned for every outcome, but no.
yeah.
Oh, don't mention replays. That'll be the fixture secretary's worst nightmare when they hear the word replay. We've obviously spoken a lot there about Louth's performance, but we have to give Antrim a lot of credit as well for the year that they had. Look, Division 4 champions, Ulster champions, didn't lose a game until they got all the way to an All Ireland final. For a team that were relegated down to junior championship after a very tough 12 months last year, winning just one game. Look, you have to say that they're going to bounce back from this. They're going to come back stronger. But the one thing about their team, they're still so young. There's probably not going to be a whole lot of turnover. Like, we've spoken about like Lara DeHunzi, we've spoken about Ciara Brown. Like, both of those girls are still only 23. And you look at Maria O'Neill, she's still very young. The majority of that team are still in their early to mid 20s. So I think Antrim are in a very, very good place at the moment, that even if they haven't, I suppose, gotten over the line and won an All Ireland final this year, that they'll be an absolute force to be reckoned with for the junior championship next year. I think the junior is going to be even more competitive next year than it was this year. And from the perspective, Joanne, of being in that junior championship last year and knowing how competitive it was, we've spoken about it in depth this year, just how competitive it was when you saw the likes of Sligo and Longford making it all the way to the semi-final stage. Like, Antrim are going to definitely be a contender for next year.
Yeah, look at even the way we were talking about Louth getting back to the same place they were in last year, and it's, it shouldn't be underestimated how tough that is to do, because you look at, regardless of commitments, even if they are young, not everybody always does return to county. And I think if Antrim do use that whole kind of like what Louth did, they'll definitely be a force to be reckoned with. Like, they're up in Division 3 next year too, so they'll have a really good stepping stone of technically playing higher standard teams, you know, getting that good experience under the belt before the championship season. But yeah, I definitely think that they should really be honing in on sticking together and trying to get back to that position and right the wrongs of this year.
Absolutely. And after that game, I did manage to get the thoughts of their manager in Chris Scullion.
Chris, first of all, commiserations. That was a frantic game. It just, I suppose, slipped away from yourselves in the second half. What were your own thoughts on the contest as a whole?
Yeah, look, you know, we went in 1 point down at half time and we were okay with that because we weathered the storm with maybe Brona getting that early yellow card and having to go off. We still had chances. You know, Conor McCann hit the post in the first half. Marie O'Neill took that wee shot that got tipped round the post. It could have been a different game. When we moved into the second half, come back out, we said to the girls, look, let's give it a roll here. Let's try and get back into the game. But unfortunately, the same mistakes that we maybe made in the first half started happening again in the second half. And when we trying to get the instruction on in the last 15, 20 minutes to push up, put pressure on their kickouts, it didn't really happen until the last 5 minutes there, where maybe it was too late. The comeback was maybe we didn't have enough time to continue it.
I suppose you were pressing for so long, scores just weren't coming with it, and then right at the end, like, it was such a frantic end, but you look at the clock and just time not on your side at the end of the day.
Yeah, look, we were trying to tell the girls, get one score on the board and let's try and build. We got one score the second half till the last 5 minutes, and I think if we had to just continue with that little phase, you know, I think that opened up there right at the end. They realised, God, like, if we do what we've been told to do, to push up, the scores will come. And it was just those wee final passes. When we did try it just didn't fall for us today.
And then you get the free at the end and you're thinking, you know, there's only one destination, this is going in. And look, it's a terrific save from
the tip over the bar,
from Rebecca inside the loud goal. Like, what a moment for her, and what a moment for them to get over the line. But I suppose such a cruel ending for yourselves.
No, look, full credit to Louth today. They were worthy champions, back for the second year in a row. That's not easy. We knew it was going to be a tough game. They done their homework, they got it right, and fair play to them today. We'll hold our hands up as well.
From your own perspective, look, it's still been an amazing year for Antrim. When you look back at 12 months ago, where they only won a single game, it was in the league champions, Ulster champions, and to get all the way to Croke Park, it's a lot that you can build on, even yourselves coming in as management this year, that you can take to 2026.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And we just reminded the girls about that out in the huddle there at the very end. You know, we're still league champions. We went unbeaten through the league. We're Ulster champions, went unbeaten. We're unbeaten until today. 16 out of 17 games isn't bad in any season compared to where they came from last year. We took the job on a 2-year deal. This was the plan for the first year, was to build. We were ahead of where we wanted to be, and look, no better place to be where we're ahead of where we wanted to be. But we'll rebuild again for next year, and hopefully we can do the job again and get back.
And a big thanks to Chris for, I suppose, choosing to step in front of a camera and give an interview after the final. Not an easy thing to do when you've, I suppose, lost a game of that magnitude, but fair play to him. And a lot of big words said by him after that, mentioning that, you know, they took the job on a 2-year plan. Year one, you've made it to an All-Ireland final. That's where they wanted to be. And now, as we said there, they can take that year two and try and turn it into an All-Ireland title and get back into intermediate football again. On the subject of intermediate football, the intermediate final was next on the agenda while we were still catching our breaths after the ending of that junior game. Next up, we had the battle of Tyrone and Laois. Louth, of course, got over the line and had a redemption story. And next it was Tyrone, who 12 months ago managed to get to an All-Ireland final, didn't get over the line against Clare's Leitrim, of course. But this time around, Tyrone did manage to get over the line, a 216-113 win in the end. And it was a super sub in the form of Katie Rose Muldoon that managed to get a goal. And then they just had a fairly strong ending to the game to record the intermediate success. Laois, absolutely valiant in the performance. We knew that Laois were going to be very, very strong. They showed their capabilities, but Tyrone, once again, we've seen it against yourselves, Joanne, in the game that you went all the way to extra time. We've seen it against Westmeath. We saw it again yesterday. Tyrone just know how to finish strong, and if a game looks like it's just not going to go their way, they just managed to get a moment of magic and then get those scores at the end to see things out.
Yeah, I have to say they were very impressive yesterday, and you know, it wasn't even like the whole way through the game that you were like, yeah, Tyrone definitely have this. It probably was only that last 15 minutes that you were like, okay, Tyrone have got this now. Like, I remember at one point, I think they had like 3 goal chances in like a row, and I was like, oh Jesus, how, you know, I began thinking, Jesus, might not be Tyrone's day when they were missing them chances, you know, especially like they don't come that often, especially at that level. So to be able to keep their cool and not let it phase them or not be thinking like that or drop the heads because they've missed that was really good. Like, and again, they showed their class. Like again, Sorcha Gormley, things that, like, just phenomenal. Like, you just have to watch an of her. Like, you know, she was so good. And I remember, I think it was the first 5 minutes she got on the ball. I remember her Laois defender kind of dropped off a wee bit, and I remember thinking, you definitely cannot be doing that with her. Like, she was unreal. But no, I have to say, fair play to Tyrone. They really shown through why they deserve to be back there this year. Like, and they did that. So it was a brilliant win for them.
We will hear from her in a while. I did manage to get an interview with her after the game, but I understood why you probably say that she is a quick and nippy forward. She's she's a really small girl, but she is such a joy to watch when she gets going, and just made it tick. And maybe yesterday you didn't see her scoring ability to steal the headlines, but the work rate she showed to try and get those scores, like Laois were doing very, very well to defend her. And you mentioned it, Joanne, when you played them in the championship game, when you got to the quarterfinal stage, like, you can try and mark her, but then she'll turn on the left foot, or then you mark her on the left foot and she turns on the right foot. She was just making it tick yesterday, and deservedly so got her Player of the Match award for doing so.
Yeah, again, well deserved. She is a fantastic player, and like, talk about young player. Like, I mean, what is she even 20 yet? Is she 19?
She's 19 still, yeah.
Like, phenomenal. Like, she's a bright future ahead of her. Like, you know, if she keeps that, and even just bringing girls up to her standard, and like you said, yes, they mightn't necessarily have had a massive scoring count, but like, she brought girls into the game. She dragged a few defenders towards her to draw someone else in. You know, fantastic. Like, so she was well deserved the Player of the Match.
She did get 3 points. I think a lot of forwards would be happy with that number in Croke Park, that's for sure. Obviously, Tyrone coming into that game would have had the memories of 12 months ago. Now, when I said it to Aoibhinn McHugh during the week, you know, you've been there before. You know what is to be expected in Croke Park. It's not your first rodeo going into an All-Ireland final. You know where you're going. You know, I suppose the prep is a bit different for an All-Ireland final, the timings, the warm-up, all those little key elements that come with it. But obviously, I suppose the cloud that was probably overhanging them going into this game was obviously the defeat 12 months ago. Watching their performance yesterday, Claire, were you more impressed by the way that they performed this time around than what they did last year? Because I think they were disappointed in how they performed against yourselves 12 months ago.
Yeah, well, look, there was a point in that game, so, you know, they weren't too far off last year, obviously, either, but I was very impressed with them yesterday. I just felt like, I thought it was a very good game to watch. It was, you know, it was an entertaining game. Laois were in it, Tyrone were in it, but the Tyrone just kind of always seemed to be that little bit more comfortable, maybe, overall. As I say, I thought Laois were very good, but there was a sort of maybe steely determination about Tyrone that I wouldn't say they didn't have it last year, but last year probably kind of powered them on this year. And yeah, just really composed, and, you know, they brought in lots of subs in that second half, but there was no kind of settling in period. Like, most players that came in had touched the ball within a minute, I'd say, almost, and then obviously Katie Rose got her goal. But yeah, I'd imagine there probably wasn't too much focus on last year, as in it's a new season, we've made it back here. But maybe in the back of my mind, it was that extra motivation of, we don't want to be where we were this time last year. But yeah, I thought they were really, really good all over. I think, obviously, Sorcha Gormley is exceptional, but Niamh O'Neill really impressed me in a kind of maybe quieter way. I thought she was so steady, so solid, and, you know, got on ball when they needed a bit of a settling. scored when they needed just that point to kind of keep it taken over. She really impressed me, as I say, maybe not in a like superstar check this out way, but as a teammate and as a forward that you need in those quieter moments of the games. I thought she really stood up.
Absolutely. But like Tyrone started strong, but then Laois came right back into it. Like Tyrone kicked the opening 2 scores. You're thinking, okay, look, you started strong, you can settle on it, build from it. Laois came straight back into it, made it 3 points to 2 after 6 minutes. Then the sides were level again. Then Tyrone started to maybe get that momentum going again. Again, it was fairly close for a large majority. And then Shifra Havel gets the goal in the 22nd minute and Laois are back into it. You're thinking, okay, Laois, you're approaching half time. Maybe this is where momentum now is going to change and it's going to go the way of Laois, but didn't work the way that they would have wanted to. And what turned out to be a 1-5 to 7 point scoreboard turned into a 1-7 to 1-5 lead for Tyrone at halftime, thanks to Aoife Horisk, who we mentioned time after time is such a capable forward when it comes to providing those scores. And they're going into a dressing room leading in the All-Ireland final this year. 12 months before, when they were taking on Leitrim, they went into a dressing room 2 points down. Now they're going into a dressing room 2 points up. Maybe the team talk starts to change. Maybe the confidence starts to go with them. But then you look at the start of the second half, Laois started to come right back into it. And I suppose no better woman than Mo Nerney to kick you into gear. But Fiona Dooley gets a score as well. We're back level. What's going to happen next? It's a bit like the junior final before. It's very tit for tat. It's very close. But then Tyrone just started to maybe creep ahead that little bit more. Laois were keeping them within an arm's length. Emma Lawler getting a score in the 53rd minute. We're back to a point. Okay, we've 7 minutes to go. What way is this going to go? Is it going to be like the game 12 months before, where a point is going to decide it, but it's going to be in Tyrone's favour? Are we going to have a replay? All these things are going in your head. And then Tyrone run the bench and Katie Rose Muldoon writes her name in the history books of Tyrone ladies football to get a big goal. That's a turning point. And then they get the insurance points. O'Neill gets on the scoreboard, as you mentioned. Her impact yesterday, Clare, fantastic player. Of course, didn't start the semi-final. I mentioned it in the matchups last week. Could we see her start? Could she come on? She definitely showed what she was capable of. And then Sorcha Gormley and Aoibhinn McHugh getting on the score sheet to bring Mary Quinn back to Tyrone once again. They showed just why they were crowned champions in those final few minutes.
Yeah, I think just watching the game, the pitch started to look very big for Laois and very small for Tyrone, as in it just seemed like Tyrone could do everything that bit easier. Laois were working so hard to defend, but then when on their kick out, or maybe they worked hard to get turnovers, which they did do, but you just felt then where they were winning the ball back, be it with the goalie from a kick out or in their back line, there just seemed to be a vast expanse ahead of them that needed filling. And yeah, as I say, just in those last minutes that you described, Jim, I remember thinking, God, this pitch looks too big for Laois right now, and it just seemed to fit Tyrone perfectly.
And I know that Tyrone were probably on the same as you were last year, going, I wouldn't mind the hooter sounding right about now, even though you're 5 or 6 points ahead. You're probably that little bit more comfortable than they were last year trying to chase the scores. But from first whistle to last, they just looked so strong. But it wasn't just their scoring exploits. Like, look, Meabh went away and she got 7 points. Aoife Horisk ended up 1-3. We spoke about Sorcha Gormley's 3 points and then a couple of other scorers as well. But I just thought their defensive structure and just the way they could win turnovers and put even the Laois kickouts under pressure, just trying to win the ball, just trying to get those breaks. They just attacked at pace as well. Like, they were just relentless. And I just wondered, when I watched them yesterday, was that just, look, we were here 12 months before, we're just fueled Like we're not leaving without the Mary Quinn Cup this year.
Yeah, maybe so. I mean, I don't think, anyone that gets to Croke Park, they're not taking any of the game casually. But look, this is sport. We could sit here all night and wonder why they lost by a point last year and why they won this year. But yeah, definitely, I'm sure it was in, as I say, lots of girls' minds, kind of that they didn't want that same ending, and they went out there and made sure that wasn't the case. But yeah, I just think on balance, I thought Laois absolutely showed up. The game was going well for them, but on balance, as like you said, from starting with the final hooter, Tyrone were just that bit more deserving of the win overall.
We've spoken there about Tyrone and their performances, and obviously, look, they were delighted yesterday. They put so much work into it. They know what it's like to be on the losing side. They wanted to get over the line and to get over it. So afterwards, I managed to get the thoughts of their captain, Aoibhinn McHugh, our talented player that we just spoke about there in Sorcha Gormley, and of course another player that was a very, very strong component in yesterday's performance. That was Meabh Corrigan, alongside the man who's in his first year of charge with Tyrone as manager. That was Darren McCann.
Aoibhinn, 12 months ago, you watched Michelle Guckian walk up those steps and take home the Mary Quinn Cup. What was that feeling like to walk up there yourself today?
It was amazing. It's what you dream about, like it's what you play football for, and not everyone's lucky enough to get up there and to win All Ireland, so just absolutely delighted.
I know there was a lot of hurt from last year, and look, we spoke during the week leading up to this that it was a big game and it was a bit of a redemption story, but what a performance today from yourselves against Laois.
Yeah, it was a good performance. Like I think the focus the girls had, the hurt the girls had, and the drive, it all went well together. It was a really good team performance, and I'm just so proud of all the girls.
I know we spoke in the week about the experience that you could take from the Leitrim game last year, just being in Croke Park again, the warm-ups, just a little bit of things, and being inside in the dressing room. I know I said it to Sorcha there, just that stand to you. She agreed with me. I'm wondering, is that how you felt, just that little bit of experience coming in today? Maybe the nerves didn't show as much as they did last year?
Yeah, I think that helped. Like it helps because then you don't play the occasion. You're there to win the game and you're there to play the football. It definitely helped us. And as tough as it was last year, like it was part of it, and we're glad this year.
2 points was the difference at halftime last year in favour of Leitrim, but you went in ahead 2 points up. That goal coming at a crucial time, I suppose, from your perspective. What was the feeling like in the dressing room at halftime?
It was good. Like we knew the game was far from over. We knew we had lots to do, but at the same time we knew we were making chances. So the main thing for us was to keep working, to not die off at any time, and just to keep going till that hooter went.
You're a team of absolute fantastic, I suppose 1 to 15, the starters when they play, absolutely fantastic, but the finishers really showed what they're capable of today, and I suppose epitomised with that goal 5 minutes from time. Did that give you that little bit of belief that you thought, okay, maybe we're going to do it this year?
Yeah, it did, and you were just looking the clock up and it will go down quicker and quicker, but yeah, we back our bench. We know we have a brilliant bench, and you need that to play football. So when you see them girls come on and maybe you're a wee bit tired yourself, it just lifts the whole thing and sends you on.
Getting on the scoreboard yourself as well, I suppose, is just there. You'll take it, but I suppose the main thing was bringing home the Mary Quinn Cup now to Tyrone. I'm sure you'll be celebrating now for the next few weeks.
Yeah, we'll definitely celebrate. I think for all of us, like the song we said before, we were it doesn't matter who scores, who gets the turnovers. As a team, we need to bring Mary Quinn home somehow. So them girls are good at celebrating, so we'll get started on that.
I suppose maybe some disappointment at the start of the year with how Division 1 went, and then going into the Ulster Championship, but obviously the ultimate high now, intermediate All Ireland champions, and a crack at senior football once again next year.
Yeah, we had disappointment through the year, but for us the goal never changed. We were just trying to use the disappointment and use it as learn. But yeah, senior next year will be deadly. That's what you want. That's where you want to be. But yeah, as I say, we'll celebrate here now before we think about that.
I know we've done so many interviews over the last 12 months, mainly preparing for games and not so much the aftermath of them. But what's your emotion and feeling like you're singing away inside in the dressing room? You're just, I suppose, just on the ultimate high after the ultimate low 12 months ago?
Yeah, it doesn't really feel real, that way? We're all in there celebrating and dancing, but I think it'll take a wee minute to sink in, because obviously you've spent how many months preparing for this day, trying to get there. Now that you're actually there and, stand at the top of them steps, it was just surreal.
Sorcha, 12 months ago it was defeat, 12 months later it's ultimate elation. How are you feeling after that one?
I mean, it hasn't really sunk in yet that we've actually got over the line, but I'm sure we'll take our time to celebrate this one, as we know how sore it is from last year with a defeat.
And I mean, it's been such a, I suppose, 12 months. It's just been a whirlwind of emotions, playing Division 1 at the start of the year, the way the Ulster Championship transpired, and then coming into the Championship and having, you know, a really tough game against Fermanagh, a really tough game against Westmeath to really test yourselves to get back to an All-Ireland final, and then a really tough battle there against Laois today.
Well, I'd say that it was them games that probably stood us out there today. I feel like in the last 10 minutes we looked to have that wee slight edge on Laois. I mean, we were running as if the game had only started, and I really do think the Fermanagh and Westmeath game really pushed us on and made us fight for what we wanted to and where we wanted to get back, and thankfully we got over the line today.
I know we've spoken on the podcast about your performances this year. Obviously you got player of the match today, probably one of the sweetest awards to get along with winning an All-Ireland title, but that second, I suppose, the extra time performance that you delivered against Fermanagh, the steely determination to put away the penalty and then to get that goal at the end, for someone such a young age, do you just take it in your stride?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, from no age I've been playing football, and I always just take it as another day, as another game, and there's no real pressure. If you shoot and you miss, go again, and thankfully just some things go my way in the day.
You got amongst the starters today. You know, you were here last year in the panel, and you know, you left fairly disappointed. I'm sure there's a lot of celebration going on in that dressing room right now.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, as I said before, we know what it's like to be in the losing side, and coming in this year I think we had that wee bit more composure, and experience goes a long way when it comes to football, and we knew what to experience coming to Croke Park, what you're going to face nerves wise, and I think last year just made us able to handle that better this year.
I know I said it to Aoibhinn during the week, just leading up to it, to say, you know, you were here 12 months ago. Will that have stood to you, the preparation, knowing, you know, here's what the dressing rooms are like, we have to go out and do the warm-ups are different than most, those little things that make Croke Park that different than what you would have played every other venue throughout the year. So do you reckon that did manage to stand to you today?
Yeah, definitely. Even something simple like the hooter. Coming in last year we knew like that hooter is it, and like today we knew that's it. There's no extra time in today's games, and our last two games have went extra time, so we sort of knew what to expect. And as you said, just knowing the layout of the dressing room, your times, how long you have inside to warm up, it's all very structured. But I 100% think last year stood to that team, because I mean most of them girls were here last year and just proved wrong what was happening last year.
And I suppose the difference from 12 months ago against Leitrim, you went in behind at the break by a couple of points. This time around you went in at the break ahead by a couple of points, so I suppose a much different vibe in the halftime team talk.
Yeah, definitely. We went out at the start of the game, if you win the first half and win the second half, you'll win the overall game, and I think that's what we tried to do, and we came in 2 points up in half time. We knew there's 34 minutes, and if you want it, you can push on. It's up to you from here.
In terms of the performance, like amount of turnovers that you won, the defensive structure that you put in place, Laois were going to bring some intense firepower. Just how crucial was that goal, the second goal that you got right at the death there in those final few minutes?
I mean, it was serious composure by Katie Rose in a position like that. To just have come on as a sum and to finish a goal like that in an All-Ireland final in Croke Park is just something special, in that it just shows how strong our bench is coming on. But I mean, as I said, I think it let us enjoy the moment of the hooter going, because there's a wee sense of comfort.
What is it going to mean now for Tyrone to be not only All-Ireland champions once again, but to be back amongst the senior teams now next year?
I think it's something special, and it's if you ask anyone in that bunch, in that changing room, it's where we want to be. We want to be playing senior championship, and I think we could no doubt compete in it if we stick together and push at it.
Meabh, I don't know what way the emotions are after a tough battle like that, but as All-Ireland champions, I'm sure it'll be a great night for all in Tyrone.
Yeah, we'll enjoy it. We'll definitely enjoy it. It's been emotional all year. Quarter-final, we extra time, semi-final extra time, and then another hard battle out there today. The emotions are high at the end there, so no, we'll definitely enjoy it and let our hair down the night now.
I think coming into the championship, Tyrone were always a team that people were going to talk about that would be at the latter stage of the championship, and when you look at the Fermanagh game in the quarter-final, the semi-final against Westmeath, like you had to really battle and earn your ticket to come back here. And I think, as you said there, it did stand to you, those performances, even the group stage performances as well. And you took all that into today's game. And Eilish were obviously going to come here trying to win an All-Ireland title once again. But you did the homework right and got the job done at the end of the day.
Yeah, I suppose when you're coming from the final last year and a beaten finalist, there might be expectations, and I think a few of the write-ups before the quarter-final and the semi-final, and then after them as well, we received criticism as well for being the favourites and then maybe not performing or being pushed right to the end, which within our own camp we were we expected it every time. Like, we knew Fermanagh from the group stages were going to give us a really, really tough game, and they did. And we knew Westmeath were going to give us a really tough game, and they did. And the same today. So we never really looked that much into it. But yeah, I have to say, like, the boys got it exactly right today, and they have done all year. We did quite a bit of work on Laois, and thank God it all paid off.
And when you hear that kind of stuff that was said about you in relation to those type of games, does that kind of make you a bit, I don't want to use the word pissed off, but you might get a little bit annoyed by what certain people are writing or are saying about you when you're going into these type of games? I
can't speak for everyone, but I know for the most of the group, you don't really take it on board. We are we're a close-knit group this year, and it does feel you, actually. Like, personally, it fueled me. There's quite a comments about being a team of individuals, but like today, I think the overall group performance today is probably one of the best we've had all year. So yeah, those wee comments, not that you focus on them, but you have to use them for the right reasons. And I think the boys helped us to do that. Our background team helped us to do that, and as a team together, we used them in the right way. Thank God.
Because it was such a, I suppose, as you said, a group performance, like from the defenders putting in the shift at one end to the forwards at the other end getting the scores, the turnovers, the breaking ball, every little thing that you had to get right today seemed to just come the way for you. And standing on the pitch last year, you were watching Leitrim lift the title. Now 12 months later, you're getting your chance to do it. So I imagine it's just, I suppose, a redemption story, if you want to call it.
Okay, look, last year we were really disappointed in our performance, and we felt that it didn't reflect how much we actually wanted to win. So we wanted to rectify that this year, and I feel like we did. Yeah, look, our girls up front, the work rate from them, yes, they can get scores, but my God, they can work and get turnovers, like the amount of kickouts they turned over. And when they do that, or when there's turnovers in the middle third, it makes it easier for all of us back in defence, gives us wee lifts, makes our job a lot easier. So yeah, look, again, I just think as a group performance today, everybody spurred each other on. So yeah, thank God. You do need everything to go for you too. So thank God we were on the right side of it.
When the hooter sounded last year, you were on the end of a 1-point defeat. What was the feeling like this time around when you heard that hooter sound?
Unbelievable. It's emotional. You just can't believe it. Like, you can't believe that you get to now go over and see all your family and friends and club mates, and then obviously interacting with all the girls in the pitch too. But look, last year was a 1-point defeat, but it's probably more than that. We just didn't show up. So to get a performance this year, and yeah, towards the end, I suppose the last 5 minutes, we knew we were up by 4 or something like that, and it was just all hands on deck just to keep them out, because they just kept driving at us. So yeah, when the final hooter went, so I was kind of watching it from about 30 seconds. But yeah, unbelievable. You kind of just, it's hard. I know you should take it all in, but it is hard. It's just emotional, but yeah, thank God.
Darren, I suppose, sum up your emotions after that, Tyrone All Ireland champions.
Look here, we're really, really super proud of the effort the girls have put in. They've been questioned and there's been serious doubters out there, but we put them to bed today. I don't think too many people were backing us to win today, so we had a wee chip on our shoulder. There was a sort of assumption out there that we're not we can't play as a collective, but we showed it today. Collectively we were swarming for every ball, and it was a fierce battle. Laois are a seasoned team great experience, and you know they've that pedigree. But our girls really performed today.
Well, I know we spoke about it on the podcast, just about the way that you got to the final, that you had to go through extra time against Fermanagh, then had to go through extra time in the semi-final as well against Westmeath, when it looked like Westmeath could have got over the line in normal time. You dug it out, showed the resilience of this team, and that performance today just, I suppose, epitomises what Tyrone has been about this year.
Yeah, look here, there's been a real steely grit and determination with the girls all year. Look, we've had many setbacks this year. We've had a lot of injuries through the league campaign, even in the championship. You know, there's Chloe was just hanging together there today, but just her experience coming onto the pitch at the end was massive. But them games really stood to us against Fermanagh and Westmeath. You know, we felt down the stretch in them games we had the fitness. You know, the work that we've went through with Connor and Kieran at the start of the year in the forest and the running track really stood to them today. I really felt we could have went another 20 minutes there.
And I know you're missing a few players with injury, but the players that have been playing with you throughout the championship, like, they have put their hand up time and time again, and the girls that came off the bench today made sure that they made the impact that they could try and get Tyrone over the line and not have a repeat of 12 months.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we've set the standards at the start of the year. We have starters and finishers. There's no 115 and subs. We're starters and finishers, and we said at half time we get the starting 15 get us in a position where we can get the finishers on to finish out the game. And again today our subs came up trumps. Katie Rose got the goal, Áine McHugh got a few major turnovers, and like, we could have brought in anybody. This is the strength and depth of our panel is very strong, and I suppose if you go over the last number of games we've brought on several different players. You know, so that's what kind of a wee chip on our shoulder. You know, it was, that we weren't a collective unit, and it proved today that we were.
What was your first impression when you came in and took over as manager this year?
Look here, I knew what was there, because obviously the last couple of years I was taking the county minors, and then with my own club I took our senior minor girls for 5 years, and like, you could see the player pool that was in Tyrone. Look, Sean and Fergal and the boys left it in a great position. You know, they got to 2 national finals last year, so we were just adding our own wee stamp, I suppose, to this year. But you can't forget the work that went on before us, because there was serious work that went on to get Tyrone to where they are.
And Tyrone will be senior now next year. Great achievement back amongst the senior ranks, and I know you put a lot of strong performances in Division 1 this year. Just didn't get the results that you would have wanted against those senior teams, but I'm sure you'll give senior a good old crack of it next year.
Yeah, look here, we'll get over today and we'll relax for a few months, and then we'll think about senior football. But ultimately that was the goal, to try and get Tyrone back to senior football, and now the goal will be to keep them in senior football and contest and be hopefully a force.
So that's what Tyrone had to say after picking up the Mary Quinn Cup this year. And of course, they're up to senior next year and will definitely give any team a good old rattle of it. Obviously, Laois dejected and deflated after it. They'll have to go again now for 2026. They still delivered a very good performance, and look, no more so than Antrim. Laois had to rebuild from relegation the year previous. Look, they were in senior football, but they did play quite well this year. Joanne, you came up against them, and you were, full of praise for them when you played them. And obviously we gave our predictions last week. You were saying Laois are a very, very strong team and could easily have gotten over the line. I don't think myself or Clare would have definitely disagreed with you that you could definitely see Laois there. I think they were a team that you could see definitely at this stage of the championship, when we were kind of talking about that quarter final stage, who could get through it and try and book their ticket for Croke Park. Laois will definitely be back next year, and I think they're going to be back with a bang. They've a lot of experienced players, a lot of younger players coming in, but they've definitely a panel that they can build on now for next year. And look, we talked about 2 redemption stories that happened in Croke Park on Sunday. I think Laois, if they can get there next year, will definitely be looking to turn the tide.
Yeah, I definitely think that there will be a force to be reckoned with. Maybe they might have surprised themselves this year. I suppose sometimes when you do get relegated, it is a massive knock to the confidence. And yes, you're going down to a lower grade, but I also think you have to give respect to the teams in there and how fine of a margin it is usually between the top few teams. So I'd say they'll take a lot of confidence from this year, and I'm sure that game wasn't enjoyable, especially the way it finished. The score probably didn't reflect, how close Laois ran them, and that I'd say they definitely should be anyway, definitely recruiting and looking forward to a good season next year that they definitely have potential to have.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Laois will definitely be a team on the lookout now for 2026. Tyrone will be going into the senior championship. On the senior championship as a whole, we'd one last final to go through, and it was the neighbours, Dublin, taking on Meath. We had given Meath the advantage going into this, that look, they were the underdogs. You don't know what way things could go. You can't write Meath off. But holy God, what a performance yesterday by Dublin. They were absolutely sublime, to put it mildly. The start they had, they just blew Meath absolutely out of the water and picked up their 7th senior title with a 12-point win in the finish up. They just looked so strong from start to finish. I know, Claire, we mentioned the game that you had against them in the group stage, but you said that this Dublin team looked absolutely ferocious that day and looked at throughout the championship. But I think they turned into another gear yesterday to get over the line against Meath.
Yeah, look, I've been joking that our annihilation, doesn't seem so bad now, but yeah, they were just scarily good. They were, their efficiency, their shot selection, like everything they did sort of turned to goals yesterday, and that's against a very, very good Meath team. Like, they haven't turned into a bad team overnight. They're a very, very good team, and yet they looked like just nothing they tried was working. And as I say, it was a lot of hard work that went in for Dublin, but everything they seemed to do just came off, or it seemed like that. But then they kind of say that the harder you work, the luckier you get. So they'll know exactly why things went well for them yesterday. But yeah, they were just awesome is the only word to describe that performance.
Like 216 to 10 points is just a massive score. But like, as you say there, like, it just looked so strong for them to just, you mentioned before when you played them, the way that Dublin attack, and like they just seem to just transition so well. And you might just have, like Carla Rowe might have been sitting and playing full forward, but suddenly she can drop out and create space inside. Hannah Tyrrell is running all over the place. You've Niamh Heatherton going inside. Kate Sullivan is around the place. Like, all 6 of their forwards scored yesterday. And it just looked like some of the things they were doing were just coming off the training pitch in the lead up to this.
Yeah, for sure. I think their forward unit, all over. I thought they individually defended really well. Like, some of the matchups, just the Dublin defenders were just all over their Meath forward in every way. And if they didn't win the ball clean, they were contesting it, they were breaking it. And ultimately, it was always a Dublin player that was there to collect it. So all over the field, I thought they were individually superb and therefore collectively. But yeah, like you say, for every scored forward to score nowadays, it's not nearly needed to win a game. But it's really nice when you see it, because that is what the set of forwards are there to do effectively. And yeah, really impressive to see them do that.
Because I'm sure, Joanne, from the forwards perspective, like, you obviously want to get on the scoreboard, and when you are playing like Dublin played yesterday and things are working so well, it must give the forwards so much confidence. But then on the other side, as Claire mentioned there, like, Dublin were limiting Meath's chances. Meath were trying so hard, but they just couldn't get over the line. I suppose from the forwards perspective, might give a little bit of frustration when things just don't go to plan that you would have wanted going into a game like this.
Yeah, I think like Claire said, everything just looked a lot easier for Dublin to get. And like you said, Meath were trying so hard, but everything was so pressured. Everything was so, like, Dublin were just able to get back in numbers, and it was just so, it looked calculated, and it was just like a frustration of the main Meath players, that it just was so tough for them to get or to do what they wanted to do. And I think Dublin just showed their class with their forwards, like, some of the unselfish runs that ended up them being on the ball to get a score. And, you know, there was even a goal disallowed, you know, for an advantage. Like, they were just, everything just looked like they were nearly in a free flow state. Like, they just looked like they were enjoying themselves, weren't they? Like, and it just, like Claire said, nearly looked like something of a training drill, but they just looked like they were, you know, no disrespect to the Meath defenders, but they just made it look easy, even though we know as players it certainly wouldn't have been easy to get those scores.
Because Dublin had such an impressive start to the game. You know, Hannah Tyrrell gets the opening couple of points, and with that, Hannah Tyrrell getting those scores, she obviously took home the golden boot as well. She's been absolutely fantastic forward for them this year. But then you're thinking, okay, look, it's still a fairly close competitive start. And then Nicole Owens puts the ball into the back of the net. It's a 1-2 to no score lead. Meath maybe looked a little bit rocked. It took 11 minutes for them to get the opening score. Emma Duggan converting a free. Then they just, I don't know, it just didn't seem to go their way. I don't know, did Dublin just flip a switch? But like, the purple patch, Hannah Tyrrell gets 2 more points. Orla Noel and Kate Sullivan, it gets scores. That's after Carla Rose put over a point as well. And then Niamh Heatherton puts the ball into the back of the net again. And suddenly you look up the scoreboard, there's 21 minutes gone, and it's 2-8 to 2 points. Like, at that stage, I don't know what would be going through psychologically for the Meath players, but it just looked like probably halftime couldn't come maybe quicker for them at that stage.
Yeah, I think the fact that they were so reliant on frees, like obviously they have Emma Duggan there, a really competent free taker, but you can't rely on frees to keep you in a game. And ultimately that's what the first half became, was kind of, you were thinking they win a free, they might get a score. But even things like they hit the post, and you just had that sort of feeling of maybe today's and Meath's day. And I think they dropped a couple of balls into the goalie's hands as well. And just things that Dublin, you sort of knew they were never going to do. Like, you could almost have bet money on them never dropping a ball into the goalie's hands. And, you know, whenever about taking a shot and the goalie saving it, they were never taking those shots. Whereas, you know, Meath were, and they weren't coming off, and then they're on the back foot yet again. So it just felt like a lot of Meath was reacting to Dublin, whereas even when Meath had the ball, Dublin were never on the back foot. It was like they knew what to do in every single scenario. Like they had planned. You can't do that in a game of football, but it was almost like they knew exactly how the game was going to go and exactly what they were going to do in every single play.
Because Meath get the next... So Kate Sullivan got another point. That stretched the lead further. Then Meath they get 2 points to see out the half. They go in 11 points down at half time. Choice words at the break, probably they come back into the second half, and Emma Duggan gets 2 more scores. Then Vicky Wall gets a point. Back to an 8-point game. Now it's 8 points. Meath look like they have that little bit of a momentum. Maybe things are about to change. And then Dublin again just show why they're now 7-time senior All Ireland champions. Rowan Tyrrell getting points on the board, and suddenly you're back to a double score game. It's 2-11 to 7 points in the 42nd minute. And then Dublin, Tyrrell, Sullivan, Niamh Crowley and Heatherton, they just keep it ticking over, and Carla Rowe gets the final 2 points just before she climbs the steps of the Hogan stand again to lift the Brendan Martin Cup. It was just a very confident display from Dublin, Clare, and like they just oozed their class again. And I just think it was going to be very tough for Meath to try and stop them. And from your own experience of playing them, you knew what they were going to bring. But it was just from defence to attack. Dublin just looked absolutely unstoppable yesterday.
Yeah, they really did. And look, for Meath, obviously hugely disappointing, but like I say, there was almost a feeling of the opposition nearly didn't matter, as in it was Meath, it could have been any of the kind of top senior teams, and Dublin were going to roll them over just like they did with Meath. So very disappointing for Meath, but I think maybe kind of as the dust settles, like it always does, they'll look back and kind of go, look, it was Dublin's day. It was written in the stars somewhere, because they worked really hard. They tried everything, but there was just, on that day, as I say, I don't know who would have stopped Dublin. I really don't.
No, they just looked like an absolutely ferocious team. We mentioned at the start about, Kate Flood announcing her retirement and going out on a high. Just a word on Hannah Tyrrell as well. Like, she picks up a nasty injury and, kind of sat in the press box looking down, and you see the medical cart going onto the field, and it's never a good sight. And you're thinking, you don't want that to be the last moment for a player in an All-Ireland final to go off, to be stretchered off or anything like that. But she gets up on her feet and she walks off the field. And when I was sat there, I was kind of thinking, it almost reminds me of 12 months previous when Louise Nimera Hurtig was subbed off for Kerry. Obviously, different circumstances. She is limping off the field. She has to go off because of injury, but she kind of got that moment. And you were thinking, will we see Hannah Tyrrell come back for another year? Obviously, she announces her retirement just shortly after the game. Nicole Owens announces it as well. Two fantastic servants for Dublin, and two players that they'll definitely be missed. But Hannah Tyrrell yesterday just looked absolutely incredible. 5 points, takes home the Golden Boot, and potentially in line for a Player of the Year award as well.
She's top class, isn't she? Like her as an athlete overall, not even just a Gaelic football player. Like, she's just phenomenal. Like, her honours, like, I'd say, Jesus Christ, where is she going to put all these trophies? Like, I don't know what she probably has this big massive mountain piece, does she? But no, she is phenomenal, and what a role model for younger girls, like, to aspire to be like her. She genuinely is just top class. Like, and watching her is such a, like, just, I suppose it's a privilege. Like, she's phenomenal, and I'm glad that we were there to experience her before she did retire. But like we said earlier, not all the retirement stories are where you're winning the All Ireland, and it's unbelievable. So look at coming off for an injury or not, I'd say when she kind of knew they probably had it at that point, that it is a nice way to, I suppose, savor that moment and just walk off looking up at that and knowing that the girls probably will get over the line. Like, so she gave it her all to the Dublin jersey this last few years especially. But no, what a phenomenal player, and Nicole Owens the same. Like, I think two girls that have, she's fantastic honours for their county, and they couldn't have done much more. Like, they couldn't have achieved much more. So yeah, what a way to finish. Like.
And there was another player yesterday, I thought she played very, very well. And when I seen the way they started, I suppose it brought me back to the 23 final, where they just got out the block so well and looked very impressive. I don't think any team in Ireland could have stopped them in that final as well as yesterday. And, she picks up a second All-Ireland medal, but for an adoptive county in the form of Dublin. Not from Dublin originally, of course. We mentioned way back when Leitrim were preparing to take on Dublin, that there was going to be an interesting matchup when we had the two Dowd sisters coming up against each other, Laura and Eilish. Of course, Eilish, part of the Dublin team this year, missed last year's campaign due to being in Australia, but came back into the fold this year and didn't put a foot wrong, and now picks up a second All-Ireland medal. And here's what Eilish had to say after the Dublin team got over the line on Sunday. Eilish, 2023, we were chatting after an All-Ireland win. Now we're chatting after another one in 2025. Sum up your emotions.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. Just so happy to be back here again. 2023 was so special, my first year in with Dublin, and to be back here again in Croke Park and to play the way we played was just so impressive, and just so proud of the girls.
Missed last year, of course, you were down in Australia. Pleasure to be back this year and back on top again.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think that was a big motivation for me to want to be back this year. Stepping away last year was really difficult, especially after such a good win in 2023. I took the year to kind of focus on AFL and just experience life abroad, but as the months went on, seeing the girls playing over here was just, I felt like I was just missing out and I wanted to be a part of it. So yeah, it was a big motivation to make me want to come back and be a part of it again this year.
I know we had Clare on the podcast, and she's mentioned the fact that you were up against your own county.
this year in the championship. How did you find that you were coming up against even your own sister on the opposing team?
Yeah, definitely an unusual day. But yeah, I suppose it was definitely unusual coming up against the likes of Clare and girls that I would have played with Leitrim for many years. So yeah, I was just trying to get my head around it, just put the head down. We just had to go out and that game was so important. We really needed to get a win and to try and top the group. So it was just trying to focus on the job and not get too caught up in the occasion.
I know, of course, that game got delayed because of weather and then it went ahead the following day. I don't think all the Leitrim squad did stay in the one house with yourself that night.
Yeah, no, there was definitely a bit of a divide that night. So we weren't talking too much that night, but yeah, no, that probably added a little bit of stress into the mix of it all. But yeah, fair play to Leitrim for coming back up again the next day. That was, it was tough on them. It's no joke driving up that journey and having to go back down and do it all again the next day. So yeah, we were happy to just get it played.
Can you sum up just what the championship has been? Because you've just been absolutely fantastic to watch. I suppose that Waterford game was a bit of a bump in the road, talking to Paul about it. Then obviously that Leitrim game was very important. You got over the line. Then emphatic result against Cork on home soil. And then that game against Galway that went all the way to extra time. What way it could have gone. And then of course you get two massive goals to I suppose put you into the final. Did that give you the confidence coming in today that you could deliver? I mean, that performance was just outstanding.
Yeah, I think we've had a lot of ups and downs throughout the year, like a lot of injuries, girls coming in and out, and at one point we thought we had all our players back injury free and we were feeling good, and then in the last couple of weeks another few girls went down with injuries, and that's hard to take as a team mentally as well, trying to prepare yourself for the game. So yeah, I guess the beauty of our team is we have such a strong bench. We have so many girls that are just ready to come at it, and Laura Grendon coming in there, Sophie McIntyre, Hannah McGuinness, girls that are just fantastic, and I think that's what makes our team so strong. We just have girls to come in whenever we have injuries.
Because I know that word transition has been mentioned with yourselves, that injuries did come in. Obviously you get someone like Orla coming back for the semi-final. What a performance she put in today, and even think that she's only came back in that semi-final, absolutely fantastic. But those young girls that you mentioned as well, absolutely unbelievable performance today.
Yeah, Orla Nolan is just such a star. I think she's added so much to that game today, and even over the last couple of weeks, once she started to come back into training, you could really see her experience coming into training, and I think you're just so comfortable knowing when Orla's on the field, how safe things are. She just adds such a wealth of experience to the game, and yeah, she was just absolutely phenomenal today.
So that is what Leitrim's finest had to say on Dublin picking up an All-Ireland title once again. We've said it just about the two teams that didn't get over the line in the form of Antrim and Laois in the other two finals. We have to touch on Meath as well. We're probably written off the last 2 years where they only got to the quarterfinals in the senior championship, but look, they got to a final this year, and I'm sure they can take a lot of the learnings and try and turn them into another impressive campaign last year, because they're not exactly going to go away anytime soon. They still have a very, very young squad, and if they can keep those players involved next year, I think we're definitely going to be talking about Meath being at this stage of the competition, no doubt.
Oh yeah, for sure. Looking at the match day program yesterday, the profiles of all the girls, they're a young team. They still have enough girls who've kind of been there, done that, let's say, and then plenty coming in saying they want a piece of it. And yesterday was not what they wanted, and it obviously didn't go according to any of their plans. But they'll reflect on a very good season when that time comes, and when they are thereabouts, and they will be for sure, because like you said, the age profile is right. And all year you looked at them and thought they were a team that were really enjoying their football. I guess they didn't get to enjoy it yesterday, but they've still played more really good games than poor ones, and yeah, they're not going anywhere.
No, absolutely. We'll definitely be talking about Meath in 2026 as being one of those teams that will be challenging for the senior championship. There will be a lot of factors to come in. Look, we've seen a couple of retirements from yesterday's All Ireland final. There'll probably be a few more players now that'll sit and see what way the next few months go. Look, we'll be into the club season, and a couple of, you'll be getting the phone calls, right, lads, pre-season is kicking off now for intercounty next year. Maybe there's phone calls from teams in Australia looking at girls to come over. You just don't know what's going to happen. Managerial changes as well. We've already seen a couple of managers decide not to take on teams for next year. So the landscape of Ladies Gaelic football in 2026 very much remains question marked for now. But 2025 was a dramatic year, to say the least, not just from the league or provincial championships, but just the 3 championships that we've spoken in depth about over the last couple of weeks. Starting first with yourself, Joanne, what way have you found the 2025 season to date?
I think it's been very interesting. I definitely think that overall the standard of teams have really improved, but I also think it's kind of narrowing the margins of the gap between even the junior and intermediate to senior. But there's still a lot of work to be done, but it's definitely there's definitely a lot of more teams that are closer, and really the more professional teams get, and the more like S&C, nutrition, all that stuff, that's nearly becoming a standard thing in most counties now, which is brilliant to see, is only going to help the game and a ripple effect in the club season as well. So yeah, it's been a really, really good season so far, and it just makes you excited for next year already.
And Claire, I know you got to play senior football again for the first time in quite a long time this year, and that's great for yourselves. I know, look, it didn't go the way that you would have wanted, but it's put Leitrim on the map, and no doubt it can get more of the underage girls coming in, wanting to pick up a Gaelic football, going into their clubs, and just helping the production line in Leitrim to get back to senior football within the next couple of years.
Yeah, look, that's, I suppose, what we all ultimately strive for as a current player, is that the future is looking bright and you've kind of left it in an okay place. So yeah, of course there's that, but just more generally in the championship, I'd agree with Joanne in that there's improvements everywhere. Like every team is progressing, but I definitely saw firsthand that there's a chasm between the top 4 or 5 teams in the country and everybody else. Like, we won't get into the nitty-gritty of who fits where else, but the class and the difference just in everything, like the athleticism, I don't know, is that from really good underage structures in every county's case, but certainly it's very, very obvious that there's the teams like Dublin who are just this kind of juggernaut, and they don't blink. Hannah Tyrrell retires, Nicole Owens retires, of course, in their own right as individual players. You couldn't ask for better on your team, but Dublin won't flinch. They're going to carry on next year and probably be equally as good with different players coming in. So from a personal point of view, I knew the challenge that was ahead of us, but the gulf in class between, as I say, those top 5, 6 teams and everybody else it's pretty stark. Like, there's a lot of making up to do, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to see what way 2026 turns out, or who's going to be the storied team next year. Are we going to see similar to this year in that, could we see Antrim being in the junior final next year and Laois being in the intermediate, and they're looking for redemption story? Will Dublin look to be going for 2 in a row? Could Meabh be back there again? There's going to be so much factors, and you just don't know what way teams could go. Some teams might just get a purple patch and things just click for them. They just work out the tactics right. They've had time to develop. Maybe a couple of injured players are back, or maybe players are back from travel. We just don't know. It could be absolutely anything, but we're definitely looking forward to another exciting championship season. But unfortunately, the curtain now drops for 2025. It's our last episode of Series 1 of the podcast. We've definitely enjoyed the chats over the last few weeks, and no doubt the last episode full of technical errors to bring down the curtain as well. Clare's internet after the storm that we've seen to start the week has had some knock-on effects, and hopefully the things go back and running smoothly. But we hope everyone has enjoyed the podcast so far. Might come back for season number 2. We'll have to be in tough negotiations now with the girls in the off season to see if they will want to come back and sit in a call with me for an hour on an evening and dissect championship football again. But we're not just done there in terms of ladies football coverage. We'll have plenty of club championships scattered up and down the country. Some have already kicked off. Some are now kicking off the next few weeks, and we'll be adding as many as we can. If there isn't a championship on our site, let us know and we'll make sure to get it added. We're looking forward to a club championship season, and 2026 is only around the corner, and we just can't wait to get back into the intercounty season as well. But my thanks to Joanne and Clare for joining us for all of the 11 episodes this year, and to everyone who has engaged with it on social media, listened to us and everything for the last couple of weeks. Very much appreciated, and we hope to see you in the future as well, because next year's championship is definitely going to be one to savour. But my thanks to everyone, and we'll see you when we see you. Goodbye.